What is Pagebuilder? Pagebuilder is a method to create web pages in a way that can be multi-row, multi-column, with drag and drop ease and the ability to put different things into those different columns and rows. So let me show you what it looks like. We are on the How to Freeze Credit site. You can see here we have a menu, a large image, some text, 3 boxes, 3 columns in a row, more text, 3 columns in a row, more text. So let's look at how that looks in Pagebuilder. You can see here we have a heading, we have text blocks with 3 columns, each one with a button, more text, another box with a button, 3 more columns, and more text. So where the page starts is here. The image that you see here is a module, and it's going to be in the showcase position. And the menu up here is a module, and it is the navigation position. So let's take a look at some of those elements and how they work. First of all, let's take a look at what's already there. We have here a heading, simple steps you can take to prevent identity theft, right here. In order to edit anything in Pagebuilder, hover over the icons. The pencil icon is the edit icon. When it clicks up, you can see that an admin label has been added, and that's really information for the site administrators to let them know what they're looking at exactly. The title of this text is Simple Steps You Can Take, and it just has some basic adjustments. You can change the text here to whatever you want. I'm going to close out of that by clicking the X. Let's look at a few other things. You have a row here. It has 3 columns. You manage the columns in a row here. Add Manage Columns. Each row has this icon for Add or Manage Columns. If I click on that, you can see that this row has been given 444, which means if a grid full width is equal to 12 columns, and you've got 12 single columns, but you want to break it out into something that is evenly spaced, then you would have 4 columns plus 4 columns plus 4 columns. It all has to equal 12. You can see some other options here. If you wanted 4 columns instead of 3 columns, it would be 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Or just 2 columns would be 6 plus 6. A single column is full 12. 8 columns plus 4 columns, or 3 columns plus 9 columns. You can also write in whatever columns you want here just to make something that's custom. For example, on a 3333, you might want 3342. So you'd have to write that in. This is only going to give you a general example. This column here is a special column where it has 2 across and then a full across. Okay, so again, if you look at the icon here and you manage it, you can see this is set for 12, which means it's going to be a full width. If it were 6 and 6, it would have 2 columns. If it were 4 plus 4 plus 4, it would look like this one, 3 columns. Now, the items in these columns can be drug around. You just grab it. You see here? I'm going to place that up there or move it back down here. So obviously we don't want the button on top, but you see what I mean here. If you wanted to move these elements around, let's say you wanted this text over here and this text over here, or maybe you want to move it back. And that's why it's really important. You can see these two have the same name. Well, we're not really sure what we just moved where and how it ended up. If you move things around, you're not quite sure how they're going to end up, close it. Don't save any changes. Just like a Joomla article, if you close it before you make any changes, it just reverts back to wherever it was. And you can verify that by going to the front of the site and refreshing the browser to make sure that none of this changed around on you. Okay, so the middle text here is referring to this text right here. So we could look at that. And you can see that this is the other element up here. This was a heading element. It'll tell you what kind of element this is. This is a heading element. This is a text block. This is a text block. So the heading element only had the capability of writing in the heading here. And then you designate what type of heading it is. It's an H3. Here, this block is a text block. So you can write a title if you want, but you don't have to. If you write a title in, then all of a sudden a few more fields are going to show that ask you what size do you want that title, and how do you want that font, and what color do you want it. If you don't write anything here at all, those extra fields just disappear. So you can see here we have a Wysiwyg Editor. That's what a text field is. It's just a basic custom HTML type of field. And you can say how you want it to center the text, even if it shows in the Wysiwyg Editor here to be left aligned. If this is going to override that, so this dictates how that's going to be. You can write a class here for specific styling. And you can adjust some more styling here by saying that you want the text color to be a certain number or the links in the text to be a certain color. And you can make some selections on whether or not you want it to show on different responsive views. Once you've made your changes, you would just apply them. If you don't want to make any changes, hit cancel. So for the most part, everything on this page is either a text block or a button. Let's look at what a button looks like. You have the button text. You have the alignment. You can choose some font styling, but they've already been styled with CSS, so you don't really need to. And you have the button link. Now, because we use URLs that are not absolute, they're relative, you don't really need to put in the full path. And if you want to style your button or put an icon in the button, you can do so here. And you can set what position it is. So you can read through all of these. There's a lot of styling here that you can do. Again, if you don't want to make any changes, just hit cancel. So buttons are really easy to make, and we're using sort of universal styling or style sheet styling, one of the two. This text block here has been styled with a blue background. So you can see it's just got the text here. And that styling was obviously done with a, probably done with a class, but I will show you this, that you can set some styling options on the row itself and not just the column. So you've got one column that's full width, but you have the row you can style as well. So you hit row options, and that whole row is going to give you some more options. You can look and see that this one has been given a class, and that class has been styled in the CSS, but it could have also been styled here just as easily. There's no need in a lot of cases for you to go into the CSS when you can style each row independently right there. You can also duplicate a row if you want to make a duplicate. Once you've duplicated a row, you can grab the handle and move it into a different position. And so if you want to make identical rows, just easy to duplicate them, move them into the position that you want. You can also just hide a row if you don't want it to show for now, but you want to show it later on. You can add a new row at any time as well. You can do it from here or from here at the top. Just add a new row. Let's look at that, see what that looks like, because I want you to see what our add-on options are. I'm going to click Add New Row. It's going to add it to the bottom, so you have to scroll down to find it. And this is our new row here. Click the big plus sign to add the add-on, because right now we have a row and it doesn't have anything in it. It doesn't have a text block or a button or anything. We have to choose what we want to put here. So these elements are available. They're called add-ons on Pagebuilder. Once you click that, you can select from many things. A Joomla module, if you've already created a module in the back end and you just want to display it, let's say you have a special module that's maybe for, let's say you have RS events and you have something that shows latest events and you want it to be set up there, you can do that. So you would just select create your module, then select display it here on this page in this row. Before we do that, let's go ahead and set up our columns. Let's say we just want to do let's say we want to do 4 columns here. So each column, you're going to have the ability to select what you want here. You have different things to select from, a lot of really good options. You have an accordion here. An accordion is a FAQ slider. And so you're just going to add items by clicking it. This is the first slider. When you click it, you're going to give it the title. If you want to have an icon on it, you can. And your text is here. When you want to add a new one, the easiest thing to do first of all is to collapse that. It's just easier to see. And add a new one. Click it. Go in, add your next title. It's going to throw some text in there for you already. Collapse it, add new item, and so on. We're going to hit apply. So now we have an accordion here. Usually we don't use the contact forms that are built in here because they aren't associated with the database. We use RS forms, so that's where you would have a module that would be an RS form module. You can do a carousel, which is just a slider, or you can do a gallery. Let me see. You've got an image here. You've got some galleries in here. It's just a matter of finding them. Here it is. So if you wanted to do a small gallery, you can just come over here, give it a title, give it a thumbnail image, give it a full image, and it's a lightbox type of gallery. So you would just select your images. Once you got all your images in, you'd hit apply. Let me see. You really just, it's a matter of just sort of messing with them a little bit. A flip box does exactly that. It's got an image on one side and text on the next. So it's pretty, you'd have the front text and the back text. And you could say whether or not it's flip on hover, flip on click, on a click. And I'm sorry, that's text on both sides. So you might want to have a big heading on one side and then the description behind it. You could just put an icon in here. You can put a Google map in here. A pop-up modal. Just if you have an embed code, raw HTML will work with that. Pricing tables. I mean, there's really tabs, testimonials, a text block. This is going to be used most often. So this is a video. If you want a YouTube or Vimeo video here, this is a good place to do that. A Twitter feed line. So a lot of interesting things you can do here with these. If you've decided that you don't want that row anymore, you can just delete it. I'm going to do that here. It's going to give you a pop-up to ask you if that's what you want to do. I haven't really meant to affect any changes here, so I'm just going to close it. But obviously, if you've made some changes that you want to save, you're going to hit save or save and close. You can edit from the front end. Some people prefer to do that. I don't. You can look at your work and preview it and see what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to close, refresh. You can see that's where we haven't really affected any change here now. And it's that easy.